I just read a report that Peak Capital wrote more checks than any other funding entity in the state last year. Is that a true thing, Sam? So congratulations, you guys, for writing checks to Utah businesses. We've got Matt Haney, who's a founder of a multi-million-dollar company for years around here and has turned into an angel investor working with UA2, which is Utah Angels 2, and they're just doing a great job meeting with people. You need Lehigh is where you have your screen meetings. So thanks, Matt, for coming. And then Ben Lambert, representing Kellion Venture Partners. Kellion partners I've known for years and years. Blake and Chris and others up there have funded pretty early stage companies for a full-on venture fund. They do some early stage investing, which is really important to the group in here. So what a panel we have, Anders, today. Here's what we're going to do. They're going to pitch for 7 minutes. Somebody over here is going to time them. You give them a 1 minute warning. And then the panel's going to ask Q&A as if they were at a screening meeting for their organization. Questions like what they were doing after that. Then the panel is going to critique what they could have done better or what they did well. And then we'll open up to the crowd for the same type of thing. Does that sound good? Okay, that's the...
Perfect. Thanks so much, John. And let's go ahead and welcome up our first company, Lattitude. Prepared kind of hybrid style. We weren't sure quite how this is going to go, so it's kind of 1 million cup style, kind of investor pitch style. But we wanted to start off by kind of waking everybody up, because sometimes these, we want to, it's early in the morning. Plus, we didn't get breakfast this morning, so we want to make sure we wake everybody up. So we're going to do a bit of trivia. So if you've heard this in our pitch before, from answering these questions, but first question is, how large is the guided tour market in the world? Dollar volume, throw out some guesses.
24 billion.
50 billion.
50 billion, not correct. High.
24 billion.
Still high.
7 billion. 15 billion.
Okay, that's pretty close. It's $16 billion. So $16 billion is spent on just individual private guided tours. How many tour guides do you think there are registered worldwide?
10,000.
Higher.
30,000.
Higher, much higher.
5 million.
5 million is way too high. 100,000 is, who said 300,000? All right, it's 400,000, but you're pretty close. T-shirts at the end as well, but we'll just jump right in. So Kyle and I have been working on Lattitude for about a year now, but it's recently pivoted to become, turn on my clicker. So we are a travel experience marketplace that allows you to book and interact directly with local private guides. The reason that we're doing this to avoid these experiences. So over the last year, we found that the best and worst experiences people have while traveling are when they take tours. Here's an example of one of the worst experiences. This lady, Allie, she went on a tour in Brazil to Foz de Iguaçu. All you Brazil return missionaries are gonna butcher me for that. So these awesome waterfalls, right? So imagine you fly to Brazil, tour to go to these waterfalls, and her review was that the logistics and the promise of an English-speaking tour guide and the overall were extremely poor. And was that she would have an English-speaking guide, and that didn't happen. Guide's English was limited, communication was difficult. Bottom line, it was false average trip. That entire experience was ruined for her. The dollar she spent because she had a terrible experience with a guide. Contrast that with my friend Ken. He posted this post. He's in the Ukraine, or just got back from the Ukraine. City today. Fantastic tour guide who was so passionate about the city and its history. She really brought a lot of joy to her work. And found this guide was a friend who had taken a tour from her before. As we talk to travelers, the thing that comes up over and over again is that the experiences they remember most from their travels are when they've had an awesome experience with it's most often with a guide who really gets passionate and really connects with them. just being taken around to the sites they want to go to, but that they're connecting with the traveler and helping them have an experience like this. But they almost always say, we got lucky, or luckily we had a friend that knew somebody. Our goal at Lattitude is to take the luck out of that equation and make it easy to have this type of experience every time. The reason that we feel like this is a viable option is because we spent the last 8 months recruiting tour guides for our product that many of you might have heard us pitch. As we were talking to these tour guides, we found it very difficult to recruit and find tour guides. And it's not just travelers that are experiencing pain in the market, but tour guides as well.
So like Brody said, the tour guide industry is very fragmented. 400,000 registered, officially licensed around the world. And how it currently works is these guides are independent. Up on the top right here is Andy Locke. He's one of our tour guides from London. Independent guide, and how he gets work to give tours is he depends on 3 or 4 different tour companies to call him up and say, hey, Thursday at 3, we need you to give this specific tour. Can you do it? He'll show up, the script he's supposed to give, and the route he's supposed to take on that tour, and he'll give the tour. Andy was a fantastic guy. He has a PhD in World War II history, but he was stuck giving that kind of scripted tour that the tour guide company told him to give. On top of that, even though Andy was an amazing guy, so he was reaping the benefits of Andy's great tours, and he's not able to build his own personal brand, even though he's an independent guide. And like I mentioned before, he's not giving tours. Several times throughout the tour, he said, I've got my history background, but we've got to move on. He is not a marketing genius, and not many tour guides are. There are a few in each city that have maybe gotten entrepreneurial and been able to market themselves so that they can get their own traffic. But the majority of guides are dependent on these tour companies to give them business. And for them, it's a bad situation, and they're not able to build their own business, even though they are independent guides. So here's our product. Right now we're in Paris, but you can search where you want to go in the world, select your dates, and then it'll show you tour guide private tours. You can decide whether you want a group tour or a private tour. You can even pull down more filters and filter down to exactly what type of tour you want to see, whether it's historical, off the beaten path, architecture, and it channels all of those guides, and it's just showing you the guides that fit your use case. You're able to go in and book for a specific time and dates, much like Airbnb, but it's a system that allows us to kind of tap into this huge global tour guide network and allow them to list themselves, give the tours that they want to give, and get their own bookings rather than relying on these tour companies. So, and I don't know if we want to say this to the end, but some things that you as a community can do to help us. If you know of anyone that's traveling to Paris, which is where we're currently, have them log onto our site and book a tour through our platform. If you have any feedback about the site or the booking process, user experience, we'd love to hear your thoughts. And then also, if you just have positive or negative experiences while traveling, we'd like to hear those as well. Those have really helped us as we've done focus groups and met with avid travelers, help us decide what's the most important parts of our product. So we'll just turn it over to Q&A for the judges, for the investors here, and then
raising, like how much and what's the deal look like?
Yeah, so we,
Can you repeat the question?
how much we're raising, at what terms, what the deal looks like. So to build a marketplace is super expensive. We raised a pre-seed round of $200,000 a few months ago. And so we're looking to raise a seed round of $1.5 million. And the terms are still being worked out on that. But we're open to a term sheet hasn't been put down yet, so we hope to see one soon.
What was the valuation of the seed money?
Yeah, so it was at 800 pre, so 20%. It was actually on a convertible note, but the cap was at 800. So.
You making revenue yet?
No revenue yet. So we just launched, and most of our traffic was coming on mobile, and the site wasn't responsive on mobile until just this last weekend, and so sales and things this week. Oh yeah, sorry. So first, and then what is the revenue model? So we take a 15% booking fee, just lower than the industry standard. So some of the other players in the market are around 20, 22%. And the guys we've talked to have said, you know, we don't feel like a partner. Proposition is that we are giving them a platform that they can build. Right there, 15 guide market. You know, the average price is $50 to $100 per hour, and so you know we're looking, at 15%. Most people will take 2 or 3 private tours during a trip, so that's the going on.
So can I ask like 3 questions in a row?
3 questions in a row.
Yeah. First question, talk about like market validation and why on earth you guys decided to pivot away from audio tours. Second is if you raise $1.5 million, how far will that get you? What are the benchmarks or milestones that you're going to get with that? Yeah.
So market validation, as we were doing the audio tour space, we talked to over 100 different tour guides. We talked to over 1,500 travelers. There's a large segment of the population that still likes the audio tour space, meaning that there's an app that you can put your headphones in and a professional guide who's pre-recorded a tour can guide you through it. There's a segment that wants that, but it's a very difficult entry point into the market. As we talked to tour guides, they said that these pains came up over and over again that I like it if I can make more money. What I really need is something that I can build my business on. And so that's the reason that we pivoted is, over 100 guides telling us that over and over again. Second question was
Why Paris?
Why Paris? So one of the other questions I was going to ask is top 3 cities by travel volume, and Paris happens to be number 2. London is number 1, and New York is number 3. Those were always our 3 target launch cities for the audio tour space. And so we built a lot of traction there with guides and connections and a network. What we found though is that as we were building out kind of a marketplace and doing marketing and validation, it takes us just as much time to do it in Salt Lake or Seattle as it does to go to Paris or New York. We can do a lot of it, most of it remotely, but New York, Paris, and London, and Paris specifically, offer the most opportunity to recruit guides because it's a very frothy market with tour guides. There's a lot of interest and activity there. And so if it takes us just as much time to do all the work to recruit them, where there are the most travelers and the most guides. The last question about $1.5 million gets us to penetrating the Paris market to the point where we can say, users like it, users love it, they would like to use it in another city if they could. So that would mean hundreds of guides on the platform and thousands of travelers using it every day. We're targeting 6,000 transactions. 6,000 transactions in that first year. $1.5 million gets us to about 12 to 18 months runway to do it correctly.
Tell us about the team.
Yeah, so I'm Kyle. I have a background in web development, mobile app development for 10 years. So I've done about 90% of the development on the product. I have a lot of contractors and connections that can help supplement that work. Brody has a lot of sales experience for Fortune 500 company, had a successful sales career. And so I'm focused kind of on product, user experience, technology, and Brody's working on the supply side with tour guides. We have a few interns here today,
Where are you guys?
Jake and Jaime. They're helping out with just getting tour guides on the platform, and Jake's doing a lot of our digital marketing work. And then Austin Bagley's helping us out with marketing as well. So that's the team so far. We feel like we've got very complementary skills all across the board, and it's really helped us build this product quickly and get it out to the market.
I'm curious, as you expanded different cities, and if I were a tour guide, how would I really, want to get involved with your Lattitude?
Yeah, so the question was, as we expand into different cities, if you're a tour guide, how would you want to get involved with Lattitude? Like we said before, currently the tour guide industry, there's really no force kind of bringing it together, right? It's very disparate. And so what we're trying to do is kind of be a cohesive unit to say, bring all these tour guides together under one platform in place. And we're going to sponsor a lot of meetups, a lot like 1 Million Cups, but for tour guides, where they can get together and talk about how they're growing the business, building the business, and kind of being that force that grows, kind of brings them together. How you as a tour guide would
Learn like the YouTube experience, something
Well,
instructional.
what, like how to be a better guide?
Or how to maximize my individual tour guide, here in this, wherever I'm at.
Yeah, so eventually we will be looking to recruit people who are not experienced guides, who might just want to start from scratch and be a part-time person. Most of the guides we're recruiting right now, they're guides who don't need training, because they're giving tours. The value proposition to them is that they can now give the tours they want to give for themselves and not for a company, and they can get more bookings. And so in the beginning stages, we won't have to do much training on that. Sam, you had a question?
Yeah, it's about the dual network problem that I think you guys have in front of you. You gotta get a critical mass of tour guides, you gotta get a critical mass of tourists. You've spoken a little bit about the difficulty of getting a critical mass of tour guides. How are you gonna do the second, and maybe the more important group of getting a critical mass of tourists?
Yeah, so getting to a critical mass of tour guides and tourists is difficult is the question, right? But specifically on the traveler side, how do we get there? How do we reach customers? So our first step is to step in between the transactions that are already currently happening in the market. Meaning that there are people right now searching for helicopter tours New York City, and they're finding a list of a bunch of different websites of helicopter tour companies. So to step in the middle there, where through online monetizing of putting us there in the middle of the transaction, showing why it's easier to find through Lattitude than other places. Targeted Facebook ads to people who are currently traveling. Our research has shown that people do a lot of preparation and kind of pre-trip planning to lead up to the trip, but they actually don't book a lot of their experiences until they're on site. So to get in front of them through Google and online as they're searching for planning, but then when they're on site, we can say, serve up this Facebook ad to only people who are traveling in Paris between the ages of 25 and 40 who have an interest in these things. And so over the next few weeks, that's what we'll be testing of those first. The other part is that as we talk to people, hotel concierge desk, the place they're staying. And so with the previous idea with hotels and hostels in Paris, and the response from them was, we love recommending a platform rather than a specific company or a specific guide. Because if it goes bad and we recommended a person, then it reflects poorly on us. But if we recommend a platform, we empower our users. So,
just in the interest of time, let's open it up to the crowd for just a couple quick questions, and then we'll close up.
Yeah, we'll go 1, 2, 3. Right here in front.
It sounds like it's the same platform as Uber or Airbnb. Rather than trying to limit yourself to Paris, have you looked at their model and just open it up to licensed guides and let it grow dynamically rather than structurally?
We've wrestled with that a lot. The reality is Uber and Airbnb didn't open it up. They started in one market, penetrated that market, and then opened up multiple markets from there. So what you see 5 years later is what hopefully we will be 5 years from now. But we need to nail the product first and prove that people will actually use the product and will want to use it other places, and then its expansion becomes much easier. Yeah.
So, elephant in the room, terrorism. U.S. State Department just issued a warning for everybody that's going over to Europe for this summer that there's going to be multiple terror attacks. How are you addressing this? And for one, I understand that Paris is #2 market in the world, but it's also had some of the most difficult situations over the last year.
Yeah.
Why are you starting there with the global situation the way that it is? And have you actually thought about how to position yourself if something were to go there? Because to me, if you're building that market and that market is being attacked, a lot of people are not going to travel there.
So it's only a minimal concern because there are 16 million people traveling to Paris each year. That's growing at 3%. So even if it just stays flat, that we can prove it out. Certainly, it's a concern. We've heard from guides in Paris that they're worried that it might affect their business, but that actually helps us because they're more interested in getting bookings. They're feeling a more sense of urgency about it. Yeah, right behind you.
I like the idea that you kind of have your website look a little like Airbnb. Are you reaching out to Airbnb or somebody else like them, Uber or anybody else, to kind of do some alliance marketing?
Some partnerships. Partnerships is a big key of our go-to-market, both with hotels as well as other places. We will at some point. We're not quite there yet.
Last question, you already covered it, but just reiterate for us what we can do for you.
Yeah, we'd love to have traffic on our site and feedback. So you can email me. It's Brody, B-R-O-D-Y, at latitudetours.com. There's a chat function on our site. There's also an email address there. So any feedback you have, positive, negative travel experiences, if you hate the idea, please tell us. If you hate anything about it, please tell us, because we feel like the most honest critics are our biggest ally at this point. So.
And do we want to give the panel a chance to say one thing that they could have done
Yeah.
better?
Yeah, let's do that. Thank you.
What could they have done better?
So I've talked with these guys a whole bunch, and you guys did not cover it today, but I know you've done it in the past. You guys are building a technological advantage to your competitors, and it would be good to hear about your competitors and how you guys are going to beat them. And I'm sure it's right there, but you know what I mean. That's from an investor pitch perspective. That's the thing in the room. We leave here if we're interested, and we go do a bunch of due diligence, and immediately we see 10 different companies trying to do the same thing or similar things. So how are you guys going to beat the people that are out there? So that's the one feedback that I give.
For me, it's a similar thing, sustainable competitive advantage, right? What's the technology gap, or what are you doing? Is there any IP? Is there anything protected that you guys can do that stops somebody else from doing the exact same thing? The other thing I just want to compliment you on is being able to pain point, and the fact that you guys did that was really smart.
What Ben and Matt said is great. So I'm going to take a different tact because I agree wholeheartedly with what they said. I'm going to talk about the soft side. Your presentation is more about the PowerPoint than you, and I think you need to flip that, because an investor in an early stage company invests in you as a person. Your product is going to change. You're going to go into the marketplace and experience all sorts of headaches and unknowns that are going to cause you to fundamentally shift what you are doing. And so it's less important to me to know that you guys have it perfect. It's more important to know that you are the type of hustlers that are going to figure out how to overcome every single obstacle in front of you. And so when you start off the presentation, don't let the PowerPoint be the presentation. You need to be the presentation. You need to make that human connection. Now, granted, the setup here with kind of the audience, your idea to do the pop quiz, that's kind of smart. I think it also detracted a little bit. And so it would be more important for you to stand like right at the front of this table, look at the investors in the eyes, and make that person-to-person connection that instills confidence in you as individuals. And then if you take a look at the cadence of your presentation itself, you want to start off with a bang, improve it by adding salient points, and then end with a bang. And there's some times in the presentation when you actually go the opposite direction. For example, you start with a big problem, the tourists, and then you actually go to a smaller magnitude problem, which is the 300, 400,000 tour guides and the pain that they're experiencing. So flip that, like have every step be a build along your way. The presentation itself, when you've got a lot of text on the screen, actually detracts attention away from you. So do that. If you've got a lot of text that you're gonna have on screen, take it off the screen, put it in your back pocket, state it, and be the presentation. Let everything on the screen be something that actually ricochets our attention so quickly back to you that there's no way that we can be distracted away from you.
Cool, thank you.
Awesome. Okay. Well, while information dental technologies is getting set up, I'm just going to mention we, of course, first of all, want everybody to come out here to be a part of 1 Million Cups. But if you absolutely can't, we've started doing a live stream. And so what you can do is just look us up, 1 Million Cups Provo on Google+, and each week we're doing a live stream there. So if you're out of town, hop online and you can join us that way. Okay, well, we're gonna go ahead and move on. We've actually got 2 more presentations, so we're just gonna move these second 2 along here and keep things going. And okay. Okay. We're going to pass it over to Information Dental Technologies.
Thank you. So I'm Cindy Barrows, and our company is Information Dental Technology. What we do is we use 3D printers to fabricate surgical guides. And a surgical guide is an acrylic mouthpiece that's inserted in the patient's mouth at the time of surgery. It got an oral 0.3 millimeter accuracy. This surgical guide decreases tooth replacement surgery from 4 hours to 45 minutes for potentially millions of patients every year. So not only that, it actually solves a big pain that oral surgeons and general dentists are having. The general surgery is completely freehand, and it is virtually impossible to place an implant straight in the mouth because you're splitting millimeters when you're doing it freehand. So an oral surgeon places an implant in the bone crooked, and then they send it to the general dentist. Now, the more crooked the implant is, the more difficult, time-consuming, and expensive it is for the general dentist to try and make that tooth look straight. In fact, there are billion-dollar companies that sell components to general dentists just to fix this problem. So you can see this is a big problem for general dentists. Now, it's also a problem for oral surgeons because oral surgeons rely heavily on general dentists to send them patients. So if they're placing it where it's too crooked and too expensive for the general dentist to place, then they're not going to send it to them. Accuracy allows us to straight place. If an oral surgeon is placing all of their implants completely straight, all of the general dentists are going to send all of their patients to that surgeon. Now, we do have competitors in the market. Currently, the competition is offering the surgical guide with a 30-day lead time. General dentists are totally fine to wait 30 days, and oral surgeons are fine to wait 30 days. The problem is the patients are not willing to postpone their surgery for 30 days. They'll go to the guy that can do the surgery the same day because they don't know the difference. They go to their general dentist, and the general dentist places. So they end up losing all of their patients by using this. And this actually results in a busy oral surgeon's office using the surgical guide on only 2% of their cases. 10,000 dentists in the United States. Oral surgeons are currently using surgical guides on 385,000 of those patients. Our company will increase this number to 18.4 million patients every year, and that's because we're able to offer surgical guides on the same day. And the only reason we're able to do that is because we have patented parts in our 3D printer that allows us to be quicker and accurate and more sustainable than our competition. We're also working with the FDA to develop proprietary formula that will further increase our competitive advantage and IP. The whole process works. The patient goes into the doctor and gets a dental x-ray. The surgeon then does the surgery virtually, completely on their computer. And then with their 3D printer, they fabricate the surgical guide on the same day. So it's a pretty streamlined process. We actually have a beta tester that we're just finished up our beta testing. He's increased his usage of surgical guides from only using it on 2% of their patients prior to using our system. He's now at 86% of his patients he's using it on. We've done dozens of live successful surgeries, and he's so excited about it. In fact, this morning, about an hour ago, he just signed up to be a full-time user and signed our first contract and is referring a bunch of his friends to us. So we're excited about that. We also did a lot of market research. We contacted 34 other local surgeons. 96% of them said that they were interested in what we had going on. So we plan on rolling out region by region. First, we're gonna get 10 printers going right here in Utah, Provo, Salt Lake. And then after that, we'll roll out region by region until we cover the United States. We have a solid team. So this is my company, I'm the CEO, this is my idea. And Maurice Jenkins, he's an oral maxillofacial surgeon here. He's agreed to be our advisor. And we're also working with business mentors, FDA mentors, and engineers. So we're still building the team. Right now we're pretty good. Do you guys have any questions?
Just curious how you came up with this idea. Like, I don't think about this at all. So how did you think about it?
So I worked in an imaging center, and I had the opportunity to see hundreds of post-op x-rays for this type of surgery. And it was a problem. They were all placed wrong. I saw them placed in the nose. I saw them placed in the sinuses because they're going in blind and freehand, and they just weren't using the tool. And so I thought if I can make it to where they can use this tool and fix this problem that the entire dental, and so BYU, I just started brainstorming and thinking of a way to do it and researching everything. So that's mainly the reason, just being involved and seeing those problems.
What are the margins? How much do you make on these, and how much does it cost to produce?
Oh, okay. So we actually have 3 revenue streams. So that's kind of a tricky one to answer. What we do is we lease the printers. So we have a residual income every month. We can pay for the printers within 2 to 3 months with that monthly fee. And then in addition, they also pay a per usage fee. So every time that they use the printer, they pay a fee for that as well. Our maintenance is pretty streamlined. We have a great contract worked out with our manufacturing, where if the printer breaks, we just call them up, say, it's not working right, they ship us a new one, and then when we have time, we ship the old one back. So it's very streamlined, helps us to grow. Our margins are quite high, but it's hard to calculate because we're also developing that proprietary formula and patents and things like that. But they are pretty good.
So I have 2 quick questions for you. The first one is about how you protect this from imitators. So what sort of barriers to competition can you erect behind you so that nobody comes and does what you're doing? The second one is there a way to pivot your business model so that you don't have to have the capital expense of 3D printers and you can actually scale this to the broader United States more quickly?
Okay, those are great questions. So our patented part is a really good IP. I've tested out printers that didn't have the patented part, and it'll work for maybe 5 or 10 prints, and then after that, the quality goes down significantly because they're not built or designed for surgery. They're built for hobbyists and other things where the accuracy doesn't have to quite be there. And without that patented part, you can't get surgical accuracy with it that's sustainable. And we found with our design and our parts, we're able to be sustainable where our competitors cannot be. But I'm always looking for ways to increase IP, which is why I started a relationship with the FDA to develop the proprietary formula, which is quite expensive, but it's something that as soon as we start getting traction, I'm already working with chemists and different people to get it going, but when we really have to get that capital, we'll wait for traction. As far as the capital intensive, we're able to bootstrap for the first year. So when we get the 10 printers going, a lot of traction going, it shouldn't be a problem. But yeah, it is a capital intensive business. So once we get past the bootstrapping phase, we will be raising funds for that.
So they told us to give feedback. Now, we get one question in feedback now.
Okay.
Apparently we asked too many. Cool wonders. So feedback from me is, I like to see, especially with medical stuff that I'm not very experienced in at all. I like to see a passion come out and the story behind it. That's why I asked you the question that I asked. So, try and do that. Make us believe this is something that you really, really, really care about. Because the problem's obvious, right? But my point is make us believe that you really care about it. And the phrase is that, and given that we're in Provo, it may be blasphemous a little bit to say this, but make us as investors believe that God put you on earth to make this dental implant thing. I'm serious, but whatever business you're doing, make us believe that you were born to do this, and that will take you far.
A lot of us invest based on greed, and we want to not miss out on the next cool deal that's going to happen. And so make us feel like our money is going to be worth a lot more in the future by putting it with you. That would be my suggestion in terms of the presentation. Just give us that sense that, okay, we invest $100,000 today, it becomes millions of dollars in the future.
Cindy, I have to say that it is really refreshing to hear your pitch. I love the fact, and this may sound a little bit trite, so I don't intend it to be, that you are a woman founder CEO. It's rare here in the state of Utah, and it's just awesome. I applaud you. I also think that you're missing a team. And the previous team, we invest in people. And so right now, I would challenge you to, regardless of how you choose to take the business model and the presentation, before your next pitch to an investor, go get a team, go rally folks around you that fill the critical knowledge or skills or relationship gaps that you may have. And if you can do that, if you can show that you can influence people to burn their boat on your beach, be all in 100% full-time dedicated to you and your vision, what you want to create with this, then that is the mark of your quality as the CEO.
Yeah.
I had to Google 3D dental printers to see how the competition is, and it's pretty brutal. There's a lot of scanners and services that are out there, and you're starting in a team concept, building a website. Is that in the next plans, getting out there?
Yeah. So there's, when you Google it, there's a big difference between a scanner and a printer, and there's different. And there's also milling machines that they do different functions. So some build teeth, some are more lab intensive, and some are for surgical. And specifically for surgical, there's not any other competitors out there other than a few off-the-shelf printers that they advertise as that, but that they're not sustainable. They can do one or two, and there's a few of them that are about to cut a business because they'll sell to a few dentists and they use it for a few months and then it doesn't work, and they're upset and they're mad. And so that's kind of what I'm seeing in the industry. Online, it can be a little deceptive when you're looking, because what happened was a patent expired for some of the components in 3D printing, and so everyone just started building them, and they don't really know what they're doing, because I've seen some mechanical designs where they're not that great, So there is competition, but with our counterpart, it makes it tough, So, any other questions?
Yeah, in terms of channels and connecting with doctors to present your products, what are your plans there? Are there any oral surgery organizations that you could partner with or that you have connections with?
Yeah, so we've been in contact. I've actually lectured for the American Dental Association, which is the world's largest dental association. So that's a channel that they've allowed us to go through and use that. So that's one of our bigger ones, but we are working with all of the other little industry groups to get it out. Right now, just because we're doing a limited distribution to work out any of the technical kinks, we're doing a limited handful of them while we develop those relationships.
Just kind of a question building off of that, and also curiosity. I know, I mean, these are surgeons and everything that have gone to, you know, a good dozen-year schools or schooling and everything like that, and probably have a very specific way that they like to do their surgeries. They probably don't like to be told that they're wrong. Like, we can obviously see that there's a need and everything like that. How do you present that to the doctors and the surgeons? And how is that received, you know, to say, you guys have a problem and we're here to fix it?
Yeah, so the surgeons they're already feeling that pain, that anxiety. And so when I come and I tell them, I can make your surgery 0.2 of a millimeter accurate versus the freehand, that's huge for them. That takes away, you know, in the middle, because I've been there, in the middle of surgery while they're doing it, you know, they tense up if it's not perfect because they know they may lose a lot of referrals, a lot of patients from that doctor if they don't do it right. And so the feedback that I've received on surgeons that have done this, even on the 2% with our competitors, it takes away a lot of anxiety. So the response we've gotten isn't, you know, don't tell me what to do, I have, you know, 20 years more of school than you do. It's more like, this is a good solution to a problem we're having. We don't have the tools to do this like we should. So, one more.
I have an implant myself, and now that's scary me. This is gonna be straight up. So even though I'm on a dentist, are you gonna educate patients or market to patients like helping them to know, like, oh, this is the dentist I want to go to to get strictly implants. You do that, or this is strictly just.
Looking at B2B, but we're providing materials to help the surgeons communicate with their patients. So we have training videos and things that they can show their patients so the patients understand that value. But in the market, it just, you know, it helps the general dentist so much and it helps the surgeon so much that type of marketing probably is going to be a lot more expensive than us just going B2B. And it'll naturally get that way. We've planned on videos and stuff so the patients are more aware of what's going on.
Last question, what can we as a 1 Million Cups community do for you?
The biggest thing right now is just warm introductions to any oral surgeons if you know them, and periodontists, prosthodontists, anyone really doing dental implants, just because we're not doing our full scale marketing, just to get the limited distribution. So, thank you.
Awesome. Okay, well, I know we kind of cut questions a little short there, but come connect with Cindy afterwards if you have any questions or connections, things like that. All right, we're gonna let Isotruss get set up here. But as we're doing that, this has been really fun. Great to have companies from over at the BYU Founders Launchpad. I thought maybe we'd just have Stephen Fox stand up and just wave to everybody. He runs the Rawlings Center over there. We sure appreciate, we appreciate him having all the companies come over and present, and it's really fun to have them be here and hear all the cool things that they're working on. Okay, well, I'm gonna go ahead and pass it off to Isotruss.
Well, thank you guys for being here. We're really excited to present to you today. My name is Carter Smith, and this is Nathan Rich, and we are Isotruss Industries. So what is Isotruss? This structure right here is Isotruss. This amazing structure is 10 times stronger than steel, 1/10 the weight, and is eco-friendly. So it's an advanced high-tech composite that has the performance and weight advantages of expensive aerospace material, but is less expensive than current steel and fiberglass structures. So this is David Jensen, an MIT PhD, patents that protect not only the structure, but also the manufacturing process. And these patents are over 23 countries. Dr. Jensen thinks this is a great technology, and he's not the only one. 2 Isotruss towers were installed in Cape Canaveral, and after these towers were installed, 2 hurricanes hit and tore out all of their communication towers, destroyed their buildings and a lot of the landscape. But 2 of the only towers that were left standing were the Isotruss towers. They immediately called BYU and requested 1,000 more poles, but because BYU is a research institution, fulfill that demand. And they're not the only ones that want Isotruss. We've had demand from NASA, from Formula One companies, and alternative energy companies.
So the challenge with Isotruss, as you can see here in this video, we have one of our engineers that's making a 1-foot section for the military. This 1-foot section takes about 20 hours to manufacture. The economics of making Isotruss, while we know it works, are challenging to make a business successful. The good news is we've identified a solution, and that solution is 3D composite manufacturing. Through the years that Isotruss has developed, we've clearly identified a path 20 hours down to 3 feet per minute of manufacturing time. We're entering into a request for proposal with machine manufacturers, and we're going to walk you through what that looks like. The manufacturing for Isotruss for this structure here includes 5 simple steps. The first step involves a creel system, basically a wall that holds all of the composite fibers. It looks like spools of thread. Those fibers then go through a wall, which will then braid the Isotruss structure into a specific shape. It's then extracted from the wall and then consolidated to be held together and then cured. The composite has a resin that's pre-pregnated into it, and then it's able to keep its shape. We've identified 4 machine manufacturers to compete for our RFP, 2 domestic and 2 foreign, Zog, Entech, and Meyer. And through our feedback and through their feedback and our analysis, we've eliminated the cost of the machine, but the cost of this will be able to make it so that it's work for our business. So the question is, I guess, why then would we want to make a machine for mass manufacturing? If we're able to mass manufacture these structures, we'll be able to fulfill the demand of current customers as well as enter into some of these very large markets.
One of these markets that we can dominate is the utility pole market. And the reason why we can dominate it is because Isotruss is stronger than anything else in the market. It's less expensive to install. It's non-corrosive, meaning it's going to last longer than current poles, and it's less expensive to produce. Utility pole market is about a $3 billion market, and that comes from 4.5 million new poles put in each year, which equates to 202 million feet of utility pole per year. One of our machines can manufacture 720,000 feet of Isotruss per year. So to meet the US demand, we need about 280 machines. So how do we profit from this? We plan on selling machines of $4 million, as well as charge a licensing fee per unit of Isotruss produced on that machine. And we anticipate about $1.4 million in annual recurring revenue. Market, that's $84 million and $40 million in annual recurring revenue.
So the good news, utility pole market is one of the smaller markets that we've identified through customer feedback and our own analysis where Isotruss can be disruptive. And those markets include like wind turbines, airplane fuselages, concrete reinforcement, as well as many others. In addition to that, to us selling machines, we plan to take 1 to 2 of these industries in-house for our own manufacturing process, where we can take advantage of size of markets and also margins. Here are some of the customers that have reached out to us, have purchased Isotruss, and are expressing interest in partnering with us. We have a current contract with the military. We've recognized $45,000 the first part of this last year. We have $450,000 coming this June in the second phase of a government contract, and then to a full production contract, around $3 million in annual recurring revenue.
So here are projections. This year we plan on making $3.8 million. 2017, 25, 2018, 43, 19, 72, and 105 in 2020. That's going to come from 4 different facets, which is the upfront cost on the sale of the machine, licensing fees, our current contract with the military, and then also in-house manufacturing. So once we're more established, once we have more cash, we will plan on making Isotruss in-house for specific markets as well. And this is our team. We have Dr. Jensen, an MIT PhD. He's the inventor of the technology. Nathan Rich, a BYU MBA, and me, Carter Smith, who has a background in strategy and information systems.
We're seeking to take advantage of the market demand right now. We're looking for $2.25 million, 500,000 of which has already been soft circled by a previous investor. $150,000 will be used for past patent fees, 300,000 for marketing and consulting, and $1.8 million for engineering and manufacturing of our machines. About the future of Isotruss, we know the technology works. Current demand in the market, we have a contract with the military right now and a proven out path for a machine to mass manufacture these products. So thank you for listening.
So it's unclear to me. Help me understand with machine selling, like who's doing the actual manufacturing, and if I understand it right, which I probably don't, if companies that you're selling these machines to are going to manufacture them, like what kind of feedback have you gotten from them? Because I imagine that would be a significant hurdle for them to buy it, because I don't think a lot of these companies want to be in the business of manufacturing poles, but I could be wrong.
Yeah, that's a great question, Ben. So a lot of these companies like Valmont, Airbus, Boeing have already expressed interest in having a machine on site. The current applications they use either are going to be replacing steel or wood, like a Valmont that uses utility poles, power poles, irrigation pipes, things like that, and or replacing some of their current composite manufacturing structures that they use on their planes or things like that. So the way that it works with the machines is we'll do a JV or a partnership with companies that have an existing distribution channel, right? Already kind of play in the same field that Isotruss can be disruptive. They then implement and pick up a machine which will then replace some of their current products and or add to their existing product offering. And yeah, so the feedback's been good on that aspect, although I agree that sure, it's probably a little bit of a change from some of the stuff they do.
So just to be clear, the companies that you're selling to are already manufacturing their own poles, but just with different material.
Yeah, so the question was the companies that would be picking up or doing a joint venture with us are already manufacturing these poles or different types of poles, and the answer is yes. They're already making steel or composite that are solid, that are more expensive, wood, and so we come in and replace those applications.
Okay. But like, hold on, sorry. But with Boeing and the U.S. Army and all those other guys, how does that work?
So to give you an example right now, what we have with our current contract with the military, they reached out to us to make tripods. The current tripods that they have weigh about 50 pounds. And as a U.S. trooper goes out into the field, they can only carry a certain amount of weight with them. There's a limitation. And so if you have a tripod that weighs 50 pounds, that already cuts into the communication devices or ammunition, protection, whatever they can carry. So they asked us to make a tripod that's sub 1 pound, will collapse like telescope and fit in a pocket, and then also hold a lasering device on top that they use for targets, and that will hold 35 pounds. So we did that. We developed a tripod that weighs less than 1 pound, will telescope, collapse in, and fit in a pocket. And then when they tested it to see if it would hold the 35 pounds on top, our structures, because they are so strong, actually tested out to hold more than 2,000 pounds. And so we met all of their requirements and needs, and some of them, like the military, we'll keep in-house because, you know, you can't. Yep, there's requirements for the manufacturing process they need. Good question. Thanks, man.
I like that approach. I mean, I think trying to go in and just have them change the material that they're using is going to be tough. So having them actually build and actually participate in this is good. I wanted to know what the relationship was with BYU. When were the patents actually issued? It sounds like I've heard of this company years and years ago.
Yeah. So Isotruss has been around for a long time, and we're actually really glad that we got it at this time because there's been a lot of development on it being accepted in the marketplace. And we have an unoptimized site, and we get 2 to 3 requests from big companies that want products each week. So for right now, I mean, there has been a lot of development and there has been a lot of time with the patents, but we bought the patents from BYU about 6 months ago. And so it depends. There's a manufacturing patent on the manufacturing process. There's a patent on the 6-node structure. 6-node structure expires next year. Expires in
About 3 years.
3 years.
The manufacturing for itself, which is where we feel like that's where we can make money, because it takes so long to make it by hand. And the markets are big enough that we feel like if anybody wants to come in and make Isotruss, go ahead and do it. Like, it'll just help build the market. It's not going to be a one-horse win all. But the manufacturing actually lasts until like 2023, and then we have 2 or 3 additional provisional patents that we're applying for right now on the new machine design that we're getting built out. So that will hopefully, if they go through, we'll hopefully add another 20.
Right, so we'll be adding more patents.
That's awesome.
Good question, though. Yeah, one of the things we know, like NASA's tested it, like you said, it's been around for quite a while. Works. Everybody knows that it works. All the customers know it works. The question is just manufacturing.
A friend of mine introduced it to me, Tracy Livingston.
Oh, yeah.
Still part of the company.
No, Tracy, we've talked to Tracy, and he actually said that he really likes it, and anytime we're ready, he'd like to work with us again. As a startup, to pay Tracy is probably going to cost more than we can afford right now. But anyway, all the past CEOs we've talked to have all expressed interest in working again with it. I like Tracy, yeah.
So again, they've asked to give out one piece of feedback. The thing that you guys don't address in your presentation, and it's like kind of by the way, it may be the one thing that like makes you guys different than other people who've tried to work this out in the past, is like backgrounds don't scream hardcore civil engineering, structural composites, manufacturing, stuff like that. I happen to know you, Rich, pretty well. I call him Rich. I know you well enough, Nate, that I know that you're a smart enough guy. You're gonna figure it out. But like as you talk to other investors who don't know you, like you need to be upfront about that. And you need to have good answers about why you guys are a team that people should be willing to invest in you, even though your backgrounds don't scream structural and stuff.
Yeah, thanks.
And to me, I just felt like I didn't know exactly where you were going to go first. I mean, the presentation is good, and you guys did a good job with that. But I need to know, like, okay, first dollar is going to be used for this. This is the time frame that will take. Revenue will come here, and you guys did talk more about the revenue and when that would happen, but like the step-by-step process of how you guys are going to use the money, that for me would be, helpful just to see that you guys have a clear path of where you're going with it, because, you know, me with a little bit more background related to the business, I've seen others not, work out. So, yeah.
Are there other composites like graphene or others that you compete with that are, what is the material that you call it?
So the material is, the structure is called an Isotruss, and it's a completely engineered structure itself. You can use bamboo fiber, you can use basalt, you can use fiberglass, all the different variations and variants of carbon and resin, composite and percentages. That has an impact on the weight and the amount of carbon toe or composite toe that you put into the structure. But our structures aren't dependent on sure about the
What separates you apart is, yeah, we can do something.
Yeah, good question. So there's been three main other people that have come in with some decent amount of money or some money to make Isotruss work. Their focus has been, there's been two things. Either they didn't have a global license. We have a global license for Isotruss worldwide. Right now we're working with the NASA of Australia on their satellite project, and we have companies in Europe as well as domestic. The other challenge that they had was they were going about making Isotruss by hand. Either that or using like a winding process over a mandrel. What we're focused on doing, and a company that licensed it right before us, we have on BYU's campus a prototype machine that's built out like 80 to 90% of the way. And it's for continuous manufacturing. So these companies wanted to take, I think Tracy and those guys wanted to actually go out to Thailand and make it by hand and wind it. And it's great, and you can do it, and we can make Isotruss all day long by hand, but if you're gonna make this business work, you have to make a machine that will mass manufacture. And that's why, like Carter said, we feel like we're right place, right time. The guys that had it right before us, they built out a machine to mass manufacture this. And we're just picking up where they left off and are completing that process, which is our RFP with the machine manufacturers, so.
So just as far as, so are you guys building machines because you don't feel like you can get somebody else to do that? Like, because it seems like there's a lot of markets where you could just potentially license it out to if this product's, so well protected with intellectual property and all that stuff. So are you doing that and kind of proving it, and then you can license it out to a bunch of other markets? Or like, what's your plan that way?
Yeah, it's kind of like a razor and the blade model, right? We sell the razor, which is the machine, and then we also charge per foot produced of the Isotruss. And we do that because there's so many different markets. We can't specialize in every single purpose because we're going to be doing concrete reconstruction, telephone poles, cell towers, everything's different, and everything needs specific metrics to be the best product in that area. So we don't want to do everything. And I feel like that's another thing that previous people have attempted to do, is do everything, and they fail because they don't make anything great. So we want to give them the tools to make what they need for their market. And because there are so many markets, this is a way we can capitalize on all those different markets at the same time.
Is it good enough that you could like go and talk, that people are like interested enough about it, you get a bunch of people fighting, and then, the best one rises to the top, and they're the ones that sell it, and you just take a licensing. That way you guys aren't going through and building machines every single time, and having to invest all that capital. That's what I was just thinking, you could license all of that, but there's obviously barriers to it. So I'm just curious.
Yeah, we want to make sure that we can produce a machine that is repeatable and controllable as far as the product that it makes. And we have multiple potential licensees and partners that are interested in the same industry right now. The markets are huge, right? One machine, like we saw, isn't going to be able to fulfill enough demand in each market to like weed out and or provide enough production for one company. So being able to make machines that are repeatable and make the same products, yeah, I don't think I really answered your question at all, but anyway. Any other questions?
Last question, what can we as a 1 Million Cups community do for you?
Kind of what we're doing is we're looking for engineers right now, as well as for green applications. So this is something we didn't put in the presentation, but we just did some analysis and found out that Isotruss actually emits 60% less CO2 emissions than steel for the same strength. So if there are any like green grants that you hear about, come talk to us. My email is carter@isotruss.com. I can give you my card after. Or also, if you know any good engineers that want to work with startups, we're hiring right now.
That's good. Thank you.
Awesome. Hey, thanks everybody for coming out. Again, next week we are doing some more BYU presentations. We'll have the panel going again. So we'll keep this kind of modified structure going for the rest of this month. But we'll see.
Is that good for you? So, yeah. So, hey,
That's what they say. Those guys. It's surprising how many requests we get. We have 56 million
I know you can start off with engineering but I figured setbacks were like actually or maybe he is, maybe he's eating it.
I actually do have a card, but it's for the company that I run, my day job. But yeah, I'll look for you. Here's my real job. Oh, right here.
Great, yeah, I'm glad to know. Very good. Remember how odd it was? I remember that. Yeah, there's definitely some of the traveling songs. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, it's the only anyways, next. Where'd you go? So what are you going like this? Where are you living now?
But it does have great yeah, so yes, it will involve like the totally engineered. So you just basically find out what kind of load you need, either type of compression,
Yeah, he's back. Where'd he go? There he is. Yeah, we just got back Saturday.
Well, eventually we were doing they just don't, not in every area, smaller markets. Ours is not. Somebody's already going there. When you come into like flowers and groceries and stuff, it's really work for our model. What I do is because of the staff. Instead of having one person there all day, we attend then we each there for 2 hours. And everyone doesn't do it. So I don't know if
the BYU gets a small equity position. Oh, I forgot about this.